Hello, it's Lockstin. I'm glad you made it this far. All the way to part 4, which is actually like part 8 or so if you count all the middle parts. There's like, what, 4 hours of content on this theory now? Well, anyway, thank you so much for watching and being supportive. I can't wait to make more videos of this caliber in the future. Now then, in this video, we're just gonna take a look back and see what I got right, see what I got wrong, as well as making a few corrections. Because since making those videos, a lot of more information has come out, particularly because the game came out, so I mean obviously. But also I've learned a lot more things about the whole alchemic side of everything, and a lot of that is thanks to fans sending me information. Thank you so much. And obviously, as you've gathered, this video is in a different format than the others in the series. It's not acted out, essentially. I'm talking to you directly. Anyway, before we get in, I'd like to mention that my sanity, this video, and my energy levels while producing this series has been supported by Catalyst Mints. It was around the time of the second part that they originally contacted me and sent me a sample, and I've been hooked ever since. I always needed energy drinks or coffee to work every single day, and I've needed that for upwards of 2 years, and these little guys got me off of that, and they don't have nearly as many calories and fat as energy drinks and coffee with all the creamers do. Those little bits of amazingness are perfect. 3 mints equals the same amount of energy as an energy drink, but its unique link of caffeine, taurine, B vitamins, and its own secret ingredient, Siberian eleuthero root, it gives you all that energy without a crash like energy drinks do. Check them out with the link in the description and use coupon code Gnoggin for a discount. Now then, spoilers.
Oh no. Spoilers?
Oh hey Toby, that somehow just appeared on my computer screen, which happens to be over there. What's up?
What's up? Man, it's the last part. I've gotta be here.
Well, alright then. For starters, let's start with something from part 1. The part with Ash winning the Pokemon League clearly was wrong. So wrong. As can be. But remember, the old scapegoat tactic I used by saying a lot of points can be disproven and the base of the theory still stands. Ha! So there's that. However, I did mention that the anime would either reboot after XYZ or after the Sun and Moon anime, and by the suddenly very drastically different art style, writing, and atmosphere, the target audience seems to have even changed. The Pokemon anime very definitively has soft rebooted.
What was definitely right in the first part, though, was the new Pokemon game, Sun and Moon, well, very influenced by alchemy. I mean, take Solgaleo, for example, who is referred to as the beast that devours the sun, which is the exact description of the alchemic lion.
Plus, we now know that Necrozma is part of the legendary trio, including Solgaleo, Lunala, and Necrozma. Necrozma is a prism, and if you look at this alchemic illustration that I've shown multiple times throughout the series, this illustration resembles the process of making a Philosopher's Stone or the Elixir of Life, and it also symbolizes mastering the Azoth. And as you can see in the triangle that surrounds all of it, we have the sun, the moon, and a prism. The trio of alchemy. If there isn't already a definitive or fan term for it, it should be the trio of alchemy or the Azoth trio or something like that.
Plus, Muck and Grimer have a new ability called the Power of Alchemy, so clearly they had alchemy in mind at some point while developing the games. And as well as that, there's all those other points that we made that can't exactly be solidly proven or disproven, like Reshiram and Zekrom being the two contraries in alchemy.
And as for the whole idea that the Ultra Beasts may be somewhat symbolic of angels, many alchemists on the more mystical side of things would often attempt to summon angels and demons for various reasons, just as Lusamine wanted to summon the Ultra Beasts. And if the rumors of the third game being stars, that is, sun, moon, and stars, is true, that also backs up the alchemic theme. Many people I've seen are confused by the rumor because it makes absolutely no sense. The sun is a star, but not in alchemy or classical astronomy. In alchemy, the sun is the sun, the moon is the moon, and the stars are the stars. They are separate entities, and all of the stars count as one entity. Anyway, moving on to later points. As it turns out, the popular assumption that the Ultra Beasts are the Aether Foundation members and Gladian was very wrong. I was never 100% on board with that one, but I did state it was possible. But here is what actually ended up being the case. Lusamine just loves the Ultra Beasts. So much that she designs her hair to look like one. And since she chose the outfit of her daughter Lily, she based the outfit off of the first Ultra Beast. The Ultra Beasts, as it turns out, are just Pokemon from a vastly different universe. So the reason they look so weird and not so much like Pokemon at all is because that's the point. They are not only extraterrestrial aliens, but extra universal ones. Now again, remember how at one point I mentioned that they may represent the 7 Angels of Revelation because there are 7 of them and they come from another world and all that? I'm not sure how I feel about that much anymore, because there are multiples of them. So they aren't necessarily legendary Pokemon or anything. But at the same time, I mentioned how symbolically that would make sense. Especially if an Ultra Beast at some point merges with a human to create a more perfect human, a sort of Nephilim, a cross between an angel and a human. And this would further point towards a biblical Armageddon, as biblical Armageddon says that there's going to be a lot of things that are similar to Noah's Day, and Noah's Day had a lot of violence, just like all the Pokemon battles happening, and they also had people making their own gods, like Type Null, and they also had lots of Nephilim. Angels merged with humans. And what happened? Annihilego merged with Lusamine. So in the 3rd game, or the Sun and Moon sequel, will there be a greater focus on Necrozma, like how Kyurem had a greater focus in Black and White 2? And will this merger be brought up again? Perhaps on a vaster scale, the Ultra Beasts sort of rapturing chosen humans? Necrozma forming a Philosopher's Stone with Solgaleo and Lunala to fight off the Ultra Beast menace? Like it turns out they may have done in the distant past?
Plus, when we looked at the language of flowers, we were looking at already existing characters that had flower-based names. And then we found that looking at those flowers and what they symbolize within the language of flowers matched up with the traits of those characters pretty much every time. So then we looked forward at future characters that we only had the name or an image of, and predicted, hey, what are they going to be like in Sun and Moon? And it turns out, like for example with How, we got it spot on. How is known for being an overly cheerful character that beams like the sun, and that's exactly what the sea hibiscus is, or the How flower. Lusamine also works out perfectly. For example, the Balsamine flower, where her name comes from, represents motherly love, and Lusamine's driving force was her lack of motherly love for her children, and instead giving said motherly love to the Ultra Beasts.
And speaking of Lusamine, the prediction of Team Aether being the true bad guys was right, just as in the foretelling of the biblical end times. Many heroes come in the name of good and in the name of God, but they turn out to be the real evil ones, and also the ones causing the end to trigger. Guzma's name also fits in the language of flowers perfectly, being the center of Team Skull, which views its members almost as family members, though quite the twist having Team Skull working for the Aether Foundation. That caught me completely off guard. And while the looks of the alchemic skull are far too similar to their logo and his glasses for there not to be any influence there, but I guess that's as far as that symbolic similarity goes. My whole prediction about Guzma, Team Skull, wanting to either merge the world of the living with the world of the dead, or just raising many of the dead, was very off. As was the whole goal of immortality. Despite the alchemic skull symbolizing things like useless materials and death, corpses, and the like, necro stuff, it didn't turn out true. Though, since they are working for the Aether Foundation, they too want to bring together the Ultra World and their world, kind of like how the world of the living and the world of the dead are two separate worlds. So, kind of, maybe? Not really? Also, wait a second. Allow me to put on my conspiracy theorist act again, and, Guzma. Guzma. Necrozma. ZMA. Zma. Necro means dead, death, corpse, what the alchemic skull symbolizes. Necrozma, the prism. Pokemon Prism. The other rumored name for Pokemon Stars, the 3rd game. Could the 3rd or sequel game to Sun and Moon focus more on Team Skull and Necrozma? Or maybe they are saving that point for the anime, just like how Zygarde had very little importance in the game, but played a massive role in the anime. Will Necrozma bring about the death of light as his name meaning suggests? Necrozma? Death of color? And by light, I mean the universe? Casting it into darkness and removing life and consciousness?
Okay, back to looking back. As it turns out, those clouds that look like Lugia and Ho-Oh, Well, they were probably just clouds that looked like Lugia or Ho-Oh. Either it was coincidental, or it was a simple nod to their shared roles. For example, Phoenix's being very heavily linked to the sun, and the tides and ocean currents, which Lugia is in charge of, having everything to do with the moon. This may still be a point that's brought up in the future, but for now, let's just assume it was a coincidence that was looked a bit much into.
Now, this next point is really interesting because it is a correction and a disproven point and a potentially proven point all in one. And this point is all about Type Null. We now know its actual origins, though a few details were left out. As I predicted, it is indeed a chimera, the alchemic merging of animals. And it is confirmed to be made with Arceus in mind, as the inspiration behind the Arceus system. Though it's not mentioned whether or not it was an attempt to fully create a new Arceus or not, what Faba does mention is that the Type Nulls were created as Type Fulls, codenamed Beast Killers, in order to combat the Ultra Beasts if need be, and that he was inspired by the writings of the mythical Arceus. But after rejecting the Arceus system, the Type Fulls had helmets placed on them and were demoted to Type Nulls. It is also mentioned that they were made from all types of Pokemon, which means they were not made from the 3 starters plus Rockruff, as I theorized. Though, in classical alchemy, all elements and everything that physically exists is derived from various combinations of the main 4 elements, fire, water, air, earth. So, maybe the 3 starters and Rockruff. Except for that point that Maxwell happily brought up in his own video.
A major part of your theory's foundation is based on a mistranslation that spread on the Western internet like the plague. Rockruff sharing a secret with the starters and being just as important to the story as the starters? Yeah, turns out that was a mistranslation. It just says that it has a secret, and it turns out that secret is that it has dual evolutions. But due to the obscene amount of hype surrounding these games, what with Poketubers all needing to be the first to post about new info and everything, putting speed above quality and coherence. Poketubers. Because of that, the false info spread faster than your wife last night, and considering this connection is the foundation to the whole Philosopher's Stone is Type Null bit, yeah, there's a good chance that's all debunked.
So, not Rockruff, which in this case symbolized the earth element, and then also led in the creation of the Philosopher's Stone. So, it doesn't. But it's too perfect. These starters fit their respective alchemic elements, which just so happen to be the exact elements that surround the production of the Philosopher's Stone, which grants godly power just like Type Null would have if it were to achieve Arceus status. It's too perfect to be wrong, so I may have a correction to that part of the theory. These 3 elements are the ones that surround the main element inside the circle. The main one is lead, which is what Rockruff was. But what could replace Rockruff? I remember getting many tweets from fans saying that Type Null looks like a combination of the starters and the 10% form of Zygarde. I didn't think so, however, because their evidence was dog legs and these green hexagons. And the dog legs, Rockruff has the dog legs. And the green hexagons on his helmet, which is the Arceus symbol. Arceus has those green hexagons too in the exact same place, that's just the Arceus symbol. But after finding out that Rockruff is wrong, maybe they were onto something. Especially considering that Zygarde is made up of a collection of powerful single cells, meaning it's perfect to form the base of a creature you're creating. Zygarde, like the zygote cells of a fetus, you could form it into whatever kind of creature you want. And Zygarde, the guardian of the earth and also ground type, the ground of the earth element. And then I stumbled upon an alternate alchemic symbol for lead. By alternate, I mean, as I said, there are many different symbols that symbolize the same things, because there's Arabian alchemy, there's European alchemy, there's Chinese alchemy, there's just tons of them, and they all have their own sets of symbols, though some of them are the same. But anyway, the second most common lead symbol doesn't look like Rockruff at all. It looks like 2 Z's. 2 Z's. Zygarde. lead. Lead is the base, just like cells are the base. Zygarde has a dog form, dog body here. I'm just saying. Plus, why is Zygarde in Alola? Various NPCs ask the same question and state that maybe something catastrophic is about to happen. But unless you happen to catch all of the Zygarde cells, Zygarde is never brought up otherwise. It may also play a larger role in the next game, perhaps taking its place as lead.
You're just trying to save your butt.
Though speaking of Zygarde, the whole bit about the chest colours lining up and corresponding to games, a Platinum remake, Pokemon Stars, Prism, or Light would all work there too. This being Pokemon Project Rainbow and all, and the Sun and Moon give the Earth light, which is then refracted through air particles or water or a prism to create colour and rainbows. And given that I've just said the word prism, it would be awfully strange if Necrozma didn't have a bigger role in the story to come, given that that's what it's based off of course. Certainly a Pokemon Stars or Prism or even a Sun and Moon 2, this would make a good box art legendary Pokemon. Anyway, so there was also the point of a more shipping, and while the shipping was real, ending in Ash's first kiss, it was not used as a means of ending Ash's story like we possibly thought it would be. However, Serena did leave the show by boarding a plane to the Kanto region, just like Lily at the end of Sun and Moon, and Alola is said to be within traveling distance to Kanto, so it's almost like they're hinting at a new game in Kanto, wrapping everything up, soft rebooting. Oh, and now there's posters for the next Pokemon movie showing off a recreated version of the last scene of the very first episode of the Pokemon show where Ash sees Ho-Oh. Perhaps it's a new origin story that will once again reboot the anime.
Or they're just nostalgia baiting.
Maybe the idea we proposed that if not the current season of anime, the next one would feature him back in Kanto, headed for a world championship rather than just a regional one. And this time, he wins because he chooses the best 6 Pokemon he has ever had from all regions, instead of just the best on the region that he's currently in recent episodes. That is still a possibility, especially when looking at all of the mentions of Kanto in both the XYZ anime and the Sun and Moon games.
Or, get this, they're nostalgia baiting. Now hurry up and mention multiverses. The only part you got spot on because it's not even a theory. It's canon. Seriously, how do you spend 20 minutes talking about something that isn't even a theory that takes 3 minutes to explain? How do you do that?
Anyway, though the Pokemon multiverse has been a known fact for a long time, it never played a huge role in the story until Oraz, but now in Sun and Moon, as I predicted, it is even more prevalent. And considering that Lusamine wants to bring Ultra Space to their world, again brings up the whole it all comes together point. Every multiverse, every cart, merges into one and then ends in various Armageddon predictions. Or a Pokemon MMO. Huh. That's too good of an idea. They'd never come up with that. Unless they do a Pokemon MMO on the Switch as a pseudo spin-off. That would sell the Switch like hotcakes. The possibility of that end thing happening in the Gen 4 remakes or the Kanto sequel still stands. I can't entirely rule out that possibility just yet. Meaning, while very likely not true in detail, all the details and specifics that I mentioned in the whole it all comes together ending thing, perhaps it is still true, or possible at least in concept. The ending for this era of Pokemon. It clearly isn't in Sun and Moon. That was very wrong, but I did say Sun and Moon or the game after it. As long as we are still in Generation 7, it is not 100% debunked.
Sure, Lockstin. Whatever you want to believe.
But also the whole what is Mars Shadow thing. We were 100% wrong about Mars Shadow. Maxwell was sure to bring that up in his video.
And how about that whole video you had on Mars Shadow? You gave 5 whole predictions and not one of them was right. Turns out it's less Mars Shadow and more Marsh Shadow. Or even Evil Shadow of the depths of the sea. Either way, it's a small murky ghost. Not a dolphin or an ibis or a wolf or a dragon or whatever.
Plus there's the point that we never brought up a Mystery Dungeon game despite bringing up the Primal Dialga. But Mystery Dungeon has its fair share of extraterrestrial Pokemon that could be considered Ultra Beasts, and plots surrounding stopping the world from ending. I'm sure there's plenty we're forgetting.
Clearly we didn't re-bring up everything again, but that's mainly because the rest is still up in the air. Really can't be proven or disproven just yet, or already has been disproven in Maxwell's video. So at this point, I'd say it's time to finally leave this theory to rest. Until the next Pokemon game starts getting confirmed details and it just adds to it. So, another year, year and a half, 2 years from now, sure, there will be some small updates to this theory, but in the meantime, it's done. This has been an awesome project. I love all of you. There are still holes, yes, but I am still waiting for someone to tell me what they are. And not just tiny, small ones, the big ones. And whether this whole theory proves true or not, it was a ton of fun to make. That's the whole point of theory videos. They're fun to make. Not meant to be taken seriously. But you can expect more videos on alchemy and Pokemon in the near future. They just won't necessarily be a part of this theory. And a huge thank you to Birdkeeper Toby for being a great conversation buddy to bounce ideas off of. And to Erizo for doing the same that one time. And to Andy Frogman for help with research in various biblical interpretations. And thank you to all of you awesome folks who kept sending me all the kinds of extra information, all kinds of stuff I never even thought of on Facebook and Twitter. And a massive thank you to all of my patrons who have supported the financial side of not only this series, but this whole channel. Thank you all extremely. More awesome content is headed your way, and also thanks to Catalyst Mints for giving me the energy needed to stay up for hours, on and on, editing deep into the night. Except for the last video and this one. I had my editor, Zach, do this one. Thanks, Zach. Check out the link below for some awesome gaming mints that can help you too. And until next time, this has been Lockstin.
And Birdkeeper Toby.
Laying this theory to rest. Thanks for being awesome.
Soar high, Pokemon Masters.
I gotta do everything around here. Stupid piece of... it was fun while it lasted.